I figured. All right, I'll call the Planning Commission of July 28th to order. We have all 6 members here, have a quorum. Oh, sorry, I'm missing one. Missing one member. Still have a quorum though. Thank you, Mr. Blanky. Okay. First up, approval of minutes. Review and take action site plan minutes dated June 23rd, 2025.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Byer. Second by Kniezer. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Next, Planning Commission minutes dated from June 9th, 2025 and June 23rd, 2025. We can take them together.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Lampy,
Second.
second by Byer. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Next, we move on to business. Review public hearing comments and make recommendation to council for parcel number 291-0815-0832-005. Highway A Milford Street rezone from PO Plan Office and Institutional to PI Planned Industrial.
All right, so this is the rezoning that you've seen before. This is the city-owned parcel on County Highway Milford Street. There was no comments at the public hearing. And again, this is to rezone that from planned office and institutional to planned industrial to facilitate the future sale of the and development of the parcel. So the recommendation would be to send this to common council with a positive recommendation.
No action needed.
You have to send it to council.
Yeah, okay.
I'll make a motion to recommend council, make a positive recommendation to council.
Okay. Motion for a positive recommendation from Blanky,
I'll second.
second by Lampy. Okay, any discussion on it? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. 5-0 to. All right, next, review public hearing comments and make recommendation to council for 213 South First Street, rezone from multifamily residential MR8 to central business CB.
All right, again, this is another rezoning coming back from the public hearing at common council. This is on 213 South First Street to change it from central business to from multifamily to central business to facilitate combining it with other adjacent parcels. The structure that's there now would be raised, and this area would become parking for the adjacent business. There was just one positive comment from the gentleman at the podium at the public hearing. So the recommendation would be to, again, recommend this to common council with a positive recommendation.
Go, Chris.
No further comment beyond as a recommendation of staff. We just continue to hear at least here, just to be available to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Get a motion first and then see if anyone's got any questions.
I'll make motion for a positive recommendation to council.
Okay, motion by Blanky,
I'll second it.
second by Kniezer. Okay, does anybody have any questions, comments? Okay. All right, thank you, Chris. Yeah, all right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. C, review and take action. Ursel Certified Survey Map, CSM, to combine 213 South First Street, 200 South Second Street, and 106 Jefferson Street to create a one-lot CSM.
All right, this CSM request is related to the previous agenda item. This is the CSM that will combine the 3 lots into one, including the 213 South First Street parcel. There's no additional right-of-ways needed, so no dedication is required. There's one recommended condition that the CSM approval be contingent on the common council approving of that rezoning of 213 South First Street. So that would be the staff recommendation to approve with the conditions.
Okay. Okay, you can stay, there's questions here in a minute for you, but
I'll make a motion to approve with the condition noted.
motion by Buyer, second by Lampy, I believe, okay?
You should give it to Elise.
Okay, we'll make a second by Talaga. Okay, any questions? Comments?
I have
Mr.
one,
Blanky?
but it's more for Brian. Um, with the item coming up a little later in our agenda, the zoning ordinance update. Are we going to have to revisit this to change at that point, or will, when we adopt that ordinance, everything just automatically be taken care of along with that?
Anything that happened prior to the update in the ordinance would be under the old ordinance, so it would continue under here, and then if something changed at that, it would be remapped at that point.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Appreciate the help. They said, so provided in the process. Thank you.
Thank you. We're on D, correct? Review and take action 100 East Division Street, certified survey map CSM to create a 2-lot CSM.
Yes, so this is the CSM that's associated with the Oxbow development at 100 East Division Street. This is going to clean up some parcel lines and the gap between the county boundaries there, and facilitate the proposed apartment complex that might be coming in the future. This is also a requirement of the recent rezoning from general business to central business to complete this CSM. So this would recommend one condition on this one as well, that any parkland fees in lieu of dedication shall be paid prior to recording of the CSM. Once we know the actual number of units that are going to be built, we can calculate that out. But since they aren't dedicating a parkland as part of this, they would be required to pay that fee. So it'd be, recommendation would be to approve with that condition.
Mr. Blanky?
Is the reason that this is a 2-lot CSM because of the county line?
Correct. You can't annex one part of a county into another without going to the legislature and moving heaven and earth and a lot of other things.
So it's easier this way?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve with conditions.
okay. Can you say those conditions again, Mr. Zerbis?
It is that the parkland fees in lieu of dedication shall be paid prior to the recording of the CSM.
Okay. Motion with those by Lampy. Second by Talaga. Okay, any discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. E, review and take action at 1220 Wilbur and West Main Street, expand certified survey map, CSM to create 12 twin home lots.
All right, so this is the first of the expanded CSMs since that change was put into the city subdivision ordinance. This will allow up to 12 multifamily lots to be created via CSM versus a plat. And so that's what we have here is a 12-lot certified survey map. There is no additional right-of-way required for this because all the right-of-ways exist. Stormwater retention will be handled in the Wilbur Street right-of-way as that road is constructed. There was one late request from engineering to add a note about groundwater to the CSM. That's attached in your packet there at the end of this item. And so the recommendation would be to approve with that, the condition that that note be added to the CSM.
Right, condition with that note added, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve with conditions noted?
Okay. Motion by Blanky,
I'll second.
okay, second by Kenizer. All right, any questions or comments on it? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, F, review and take possible action, Rock River Ridge partial dedication of Phase 1 public improvements.
All right, I'll kick this one off. Construction of the Rock River Ridge subdivision Phase 1 began in 2024 and includes the installation of public infrastructure to support residential development in the southwest quadrant of town. The concept of partial dedication of public improvements, really utility, and then roadway improvements through substantial completion or the binder course of asphalt was brought before this commission last month. The staff recommendation at this point is to accept the public improvements through substantial completion through that binder course installation for the Rock River Ridge Phase 1 to the Common Council. Punch list items have been confirmed as completed. I do want to note there will be one final punch list once that surface course of asphalt is installed down the road. So we want to make sure before we accept and do a final acceptance of public improvement, everything is good there.
Okay. Your possible action.
Yes, so we're looking for the recommendation to accept improvements through substantial completion for Rock River Ridge Phase 1 subdivision.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for that.
So moved.
Okay, motion by Blanky,
I'll second.
second by Lampy. Okay, any further discussion or questions?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Mayor abstain.
Sorry, okay. Four yeses, one abstention. All right, move on to G then. Zoning ordinance update, kickoff presentation by Vanderwall.
Yeah, we'll give them a minute to get set up here. This is just a reminder for those who are on the commission and maybe the new ones who weren't part of it, but this is a part of a about a 2.5 2 year process to modernize the zoning ordinance, streamline some of the ways we do things and kind of bring it up to date in general. Ben Rohr from Vanderwall will be here or is here to kind of walk us through what he has here in the packet. And with that, if you're ready, we'll there we go.
Thank you, Brian. Hello, my name is Ben Rohr with Van Wall Associates. My colleague Sonia is the one that you guys are most familiar with. Worked with her on the zoning ordinance evaluation and audit memo last year. And she was planned to take on this project. She just had a baby last week, and so I am going to proceed in moving this project forward during that time period. And so there will be a couple of different phases throughout this project, but just wanted to make you aware of the difference there. I have worked with the city in a variety of capacities over the years, so I may have run into some of you all, but I will just be assisting in moving this project forward over the next several months while she's out in her absence. So there will be a variety of plan commission meetings associated with this project. You guys are sort of tasked with helping guide the development of the new zoning ordinance, starting with the audit memo that occurred last year. And so this will be the first of several meetings where we talk about different specific topics and get into some policy decisions. Like Brian noted, this is a project that we anticipate to take a minimum of a year. So we're looking at sort of orientation of the zoning districts, talking about that a little bit today. Building on that will be the land uses and bulk dimensional standards, so your setbacks, your lot sizes, all those dimensions that go hand in hand with the land uses and the zoning districts. We'll be working on that through the fall with this group. And then when we transition into the winter time, that's when we'll have sort of big chunks of the full text to start reviewing with you all, boiling it down into some policy discussion items. Those things that we need to get feedback from you all to get that direction to develop the document. So there'll be a part one zoning map and a part two associated with that. And then orientation towards adoption potentially around this time next year. So wanted to just refresh your memory on the evaluation audit memo that was, I think, last October, November sometime, when Sonia came and presented that. But just so you're all aware of it, it looked at the existing zoning ordinance and it said where there's some deficiencies, where there's some issues, where are there ways that we can improve the existing zoning ordinance. So some of those high level findings included streamlining processes, really trying to meet the city's housing objectives through matching the zoning districts, the land uses, the bulk dimensional standards to better orientation with those housing objectives, allowing for more of a mixed use format versus more of a segregation of land uses by zoning district format, modernizing requirements in relationship to more modern development practices. And then also, we obviously want to take this opportunity to bring the ordinance into compliance with all state and federal laws, because those are constantly changing. And so even if we've adapted the ordinance in a variety of ways over the years, there's still opportunities to do these federal and state law changes, in particular when we're doing a rewrite process. And then finally, user friendliness, we want to improve that as much as we can. So when I was, this table came from the zoning memo, and we don't need to go into all the depth of it, other than all I wanted to orient you to is when I'm referring to part one versus part two. Part one is what I have highlighted there as far as like establishing the zoning districts, talking about land uses, talking about bulk regulations. So that's really setting up the framework of the zoning ordinance and really setting the stage for the other pieces. The other pieces are important, don't get me wrong, but those are the building blocks for the whole zoning code. So we spend our time focusing on part one to start with. Then we transition to part two, where we get into parking and access, performance standards, fencing, exterior building design, landscaping, signs, all of those types of things. So that's sort of the orientation. And when we're referring to part one versus part two, just wanted to make you aware of that in relationship to what we're talking about. Then finally, within the memo, there was also a discussion about what some potential changes could look like to the zoning districts to be reflective. And it identified housing barriers existing for all different types of housing formats. So in a little bit, when we talked about some of the ideas related to some draft new zoning districts, you can see residential is a big component of that. Obviously, mixed use is another component of that. We want to try and accomplish what we can from that perspective, and some of the name changes alone with some of the proposed zoning districts try to accomplish that. Are there opportunities for us to remove or reduce the complexity associated with the overlay districts, or potentially remove combined districts that act the same way or similar? And so you'll see some of that. And then obviously we need to focus some time and effort and energy on downtown, and also reducing overall need for conditional use processes, because we know that through Act 67, the state limited the ability for a community to really have a lot of denial capacity within that conditional use process. So what we need to do is reorient the zoning district to move away from those conditional uses where we can accomplish that. So within your packet, provided a little overview of what I call the zoning district translation table, where we had the existing zoning district and some possible new zoning districts. And so what I wanted to do is just show you some visuals of what we meant by some of those things. Now we're at like the 30,000 foot view right now. The intent is to get down to a more refined view as we move forward through this. So these are ideas to start with. And then as we move through the next few phases of developing land uses and bulk dimensional standards for each, we might refine the zoning districts even more. When we get to mapping, we're probably gonna refine them even further. And so these are ideas, and conceptually, where we are just starting off the process. So what we're aiming to do is create a complete new set of districts. If it's nothing more than changing the name. And why we do this is to completely separate the situation from the existing zoning code from the new zoning code. We're trying to avoid a situation where there's overlap and creating confusion for applicants or staff. And separating those two things, at least by name in relationship to the zoning districts, is an important distinction. So there are some zoning districts, like you guys were talking about before, where we're going to match some of the district to what it is today to reflect existing development patterns in some instances. And then in other instances, what we're going to do is try and achieve either comprehensive plan goals, address state law changes, address how that property may have changed or evolved over time since it was last addressed through the zoning map. And so there's a variety of opportunities to accomplish a variety, I guess, of different goals throughout this process. But as I had mentioned before, really we're starting at a high level and we anticipate refinement of minimally, probably, maybe not needing all of these zoning districts, maybe changing them up in some capacity. We want to start with something and work through that with you all. If it does look like it's a lot and overwhelming, we do anticipate refinement happening over time. So I'm going to start with residential districts. On the left is the existing zoning districts proposed in the middle, and then there's a little explanation on the right. So right now we have a county estate and an ex-urban residential. These are not mapped at all, or if they are mapped, they're very infrequent, and they basically are oriented to very large lot, single family. That's not reflective of the community's housing goals, and so because they aren't zoned, there aren't shown a lot on the map, if at all, then we're proposing to remove those two categories or two zoning districts. Today, there's one single family zoning district. Now that works well for simplicity purposes, but what it runs into is situations where that 8,000 square foot minimum lot size isn't necessarily big enough to even accommodate existing properties, especially in the older parts of the community that are smaller than that. In addition to some newer development formats that we are seeing at smaller lot sizes. So what the variation in the single family zoning district as proposed right now would be accommodate a variety of different sizes of single family formats. Two family through multifamily, as noted in some of the recommendations from the audit and from the comprehensive plan, we want to orient the zoning code to enable a variety of different housing formats to take place and remove barriers. One method or opportunity area to do that is to create what's called mixed residential zoning districts. So what's proposed is 3 different mixed residential that have varying development densities attached to them in relationship to providing opportunities for potentially an entire neighborhood to get zoned mixed residential and accommodate a variety of different housing formats within that same zoning district. And then finally, senior residential, that is a zoning district that was created for a very specific land use. That land use could be embedded within these other zoning districts as permitted, and we wouldn't need that specific zoning district, for example. So just a couple of images, single family 1, 8,000 square feet, minimum lot size is what we have today as far as the SR4 is concerned. That could fit well with some of the newer residential neighborhoods that are on these size lots. Now, when we get closer to downtown in the older parts of the community, you can see the grouping of those lots is much smaller than what the previous image showed. And so minimally, we need to accommodate what's on the ground in terms of these existing development formats, whether that's a 5,000 or 6,000 minimum square foot lot size. The third is an opportunity area. While this doesn't necessarily exist within the community today, there are several formats within other communities And this is a growing trend of alley-loaded single-family development. And these are on much smaller lot sizes where you use the alley to access the garage, and then the front of the house is much closer to the street. This is a format that we've seen used frequently in Dane County and Milwaukee. It's kind of converging here in the middle, and it may not have been here yet, but it probably will be at some point as far as the development proposal is concerned. And so this new zoning district could accommodate that development form. Mixed residential will go relatively quickly, but single family and two family would be sort of the lowest scale mixed residential format. Then we bump up in intensity to allow what we would call small multifamily, two family, and single family. So for example, this image of a neighborhood could potentially all be accommodated with that zoning district. And then as we scale up in density even further, in relationship to multifamily, that's where you get that separation for the mixed residential third tier of zoning district. Commercial and mixed use, we have a neighborhood office and a neighborhood business today. We are proposing to combine those two things to act similar and address those small scale commercial mixed use opportunity areas that we see throughout the community. Retain that planned office and institutional as an institutional zoning district. Planned business and general business, combine those into a corridor mixed use. And then central business, we'll talk about this in particular, but do we need two different kinds of downtown? One specifically to require a mixed use format, meaning that there's commercial on the ground floor, and then one that would allow for all residential. We have examples of both that exist today within the downtown area, and so we want to talk about that a little bit further. So you have your neighborhood mixed use. You've seen these typical kind of corner store approach that you see throughout the community. Institutional, your schools, your government buildings, things like that. Corridor mixed use, what we're proposing is sort of combine those business zoning districts together, make it sort of uniform across these corridors in relationship to zoning, and address those through that commercial corridor kind of blanket statement and zoning district. And then the two downtown, one really oriented to retain the existing rules in relation to the central business district where ground floor commercial is required. We would foresee this being on Main Street and those blocks directly adjacent to Main Street. But as we work along the riverfront and some of those outer lying areas, we have examples in the downtown of development that does not include the commercial component. And we've run into issues in the past with the existing zoning district requirement. So I'm not proposing that we change all of downtown, but we should minimally try to reflect what's happened in some areas and potentially accommodate other opportunities to exist in the future. You have the ability to still deny the zoning map amendment if you so choose at this level or the council level. But minimally, we should build the standards to accommodate the type of development that we see and that we foresee with adopted plans such as the riverfront plan and the TIF project and the Oxbow project, all of that. Industrial employment, again, consolidation. We have a plan, we have a general industrial planning to group those together into sort of a less intense industrial uses, and then heavy retaining and more intensive that would probably look more like a spot here or there with that higher intensity formats. So I envision the industrial district covering a lot of those areas that we traditionally think of as industrial, whether they're industrial parks or just different areas where industrial uses exist, but have more indoor orientation than what you would see, like, and conversely, in an intensive industrial situation where there's more outdoor activity and you can see higher intensity. And so what we want to do is protect the city. Doesn't mean that properties aren't going to be zoned this way, doesn't mean that we couldn't zone a property like this in the future, but we want to have some different standards to protect the neighbors, to protect neighborhood impacts, that kind of thing, when we have these higher intensity use. And then finally, just a catch-all sort of other district. We do have a rural holding district today. We propose to retain that and change the name to agriculture. And then propose potentially a couple of other new districts to handle unique situations like the airport, like parks and recreation. Now, these are the types of things I think warrant a conversation, pros and cons, as we move through the process. Do we need them? Do we not? I think that we're just throwing out ideas to start with, to have that conversation today. What I would recommend is that we have some sort of intensive outdoor activity zoning district in direct response to the conditional use process that I mentioned before, and really giving the city protection in this space. So while we don't have the same ability to say yes or no to a conditional use anymore, we do have that ability, at least as it stands today, to say yes and no to a zoning map amendment. So when we have a thing like a quarry or an amusement park or a junkyard, we don't want it to be a conditional use in the industrial zoning district. We want it to be a separate zoning district, so we, as the city, have the ability to say yes and no to that zoning map amendment request, rather than being sort of boxed in with a conditional use. We may not even use this zoning district on the map. It may just be a placeholder, so the city has the ability to regulate it in the future, if so needed. And finally, there's overlay districts. I think the natural resources protection, pretty self-explanatory. Downtown historic preservation and plan development. All three of those, I think, we'll work on, but at least how we're thinking of it right now, we'd probably retain those in some capacity. The corridor and the gateway design, I know you guys just worked on that a little bit, but what we think we can do is take it even a step further and build those standards directly into the corridor mixed-use zoning district and remove the need for an overlay. So we are regulating those things in a more streamlined capacity and try to avoid the situation of, oh, is this in an overlay? Then these other things apply. Why don't we sort of uniformly apply them to these corridors where they're mapped on the overlay? And so that's just an idea to start with from that perspective. So I know I threw a lot at you in a short period of time. I know that there's a lot to digest. I will answer any questions on any of the things that I just presented, but I did want to just pose some questions to you to get some thoughts going. I didn't want to just say, all right, now what do you think? So some of those things that I mentioned during the presentation are just sort of these questions. You know, do we want to have a mixed residential zoning district or a set of mixed residential zoning districts? Do we think retaining that SR4 equivalent zoning district makes sense, or going to a smaller minimum lot size than what it is today? Do we think we need an office zoning district specifically, or do we think that it could be built in to the mixed use, corridor mixed use, the institutional, some of the other districts? Do we need two standalone downtown zoning districts, one for mixed use and one for residential? And then what do you guys think about some of those other zoning districts? So I just posed those questions to you all. Obviously, if there's other questions that you would like to cover, please bring those up. And again, there will be further opportunities as we move forward through this process to get into more of the weeds in relationship to, well, where does this apply? Or what are we talking about setbacks? Or, you know, those things are to come. We're just talking high level at this point. Do some of these ideas make sense? Do we want to continue down this path, or are we way off and need to make adjustments?
Two things, a statement and a
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Statement is, please pass along congratulations on the baby or the person I was supposed to be.
Absolutely.
Question, you're gonna think I'm kidding. Could we go back to slide 2?
Absolutely.
That'd be summer of 2026 at the bottom of that
Yes.
chart?
I found it. Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
That was a thing there. I thought.
No problem. Technicality. Thank you.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, and I obviously don't speak for the rest of the council or even this commission, the zoning code for me, should be as flexible and simple as possible. I have heard complaints from numerous people in the past, and we've gotten better, but this Watertown had a very unfortunate reputation of being difficult to work with and being difficult for development, especially for anyone who was coming in from out of town. So the varying lot sizes, to me, I'm definitely in favor of that. There's changing trends. We read 5 articles on millennials and younger generations. They do not want the traditional quarter acre lot, big yard. They want a smaller lot. They tend to want, I guess, pack mentality is, that's probably not a flattering term, but they do things in groups more. They want to be a little bit closer together. So I think that having that ability in the code is an advantage where we don't have to go the route of multiple approvals just to get to that point. The one that I had a question on is the industrial. So we currently have 3 different industrial levels of zoning, for lack of a better term. We kind of all are familiar with what planned industrial is due to a recent development, and heavy industrial, I assume general falls somewhere in between that. How would the zoning code handle putting 2 of those categories together into one? I mean, I know the description you have is less intense industrial that is found throughout the community, but does this limit our ability to sort of have that mid-range industrial, something that's a little bit heavier industrial, but not, I think of where I work where there's smokestacks on the property. So something along that.
Yeah, an alternative approach would be sort of a light, medium, and heavy industrial, and that's not that similar to what you have today. And the medium would accommodate that mixed kind of scenario of what you're talking about, where it may not be the most extreme, egregious example of outdoor activity happening, but there's more than what you would see in a like all indoor oriented type in industrial zoning district. Maybe we need that medium, and I'm not saying we don't. One way I was trying to envision streamlining this is to combine and consolidate where there might be opportunities to do so in relationship to the zoning districts, and try and fit this opportunity where maybe there isn't the zoning map amendment needed to move that light scale and the medium scale. It's only when you're getting into that heavy scale, which would be defined later on in the process. We'd have that discussion, but I guess that's where I was coming from to start with is, are there opportunities to consolidate? This was one that came to mind.
So that I was going to ask a follow-up question for clarity, and you just kind of answered it. My question was going to be, does combining districts into less amounts, so you take these 2 and put them into one, does that pigeonhole us or make limitations? And the way you answered that tells me no, it really doesn't. It actually makes it easier for us to have the development at different levels within that zoning district.
Yeah, it's a pro and con.
Okay.
You provide more flexibility for theoretical possibility to take place. You have a little bit less control because it's not going to require the 4 or 5 steps of a zoning map amendment and those, discussions. It's going to be more of the site plan comes before you guys and you look at the site plan details versus, arguing about what the land use is. And so it gets to your earlier point about all people have complained about the flexibility and ease to work with the community. And these are ways that we can try and accomplish that. What the flip side is, the city as a whole has less control over some of those things, than otherwise. That's the pro and con we need to weigh through this process.
Thank you.
Just one thing to add to that, the main difference between plant industrial and general industrial really is the plant industrial has more green space and landscaping, those kind of beautification kind of requirements. So as far as uses, they're very similar. It's just that it has more of a higher standard for the buildings. So that's kind of the idea, is blend those together into one district rather than have the two.
I have one. Under intensive outdoor activity or IOA, it talks about more control than the CUP process for high intensity uses. What kind of mechanism do you envision being in place to administer something like that? Would it be similar to the CUP process or
It would be a
something
separate-
different? Okay,
So in other communities, for example, I did a zoning code rewrite in Jefferson and Fort in the last 5 years. And we created similar zoning districts where they aren't physically applied to the map today. That district just exists for the possibility of addressing that situation if it were to happen in the future. In that, all right, property owner X comes in and says, I want to do a salvage yard. Salvage yard isn't permitted in the industrial zoning district. You need to request a zoning map amendment. They would go through that process and the city would have the ability to weigh the options at that point and say yes or no. Whereas if it's a conditional use in the industrial zoning district and they meet the standards, you legally can't say no.
Okay.
So that's the theoretical, sort of way we're trying to address it there.
gotcha. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much.
Well, thank you all.
Yeah.
Appreciate the time and I will be seeing you again soon.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, that puts us up to number 4 then, adjournment.
11. Number 11.
Oh, I was looking at 3 being business, 4 being adjournment, but okay, number 11 will be stand corrected.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion by Kniezer,
I'll second.
okay, second by Blanky. Any discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Thank you. It is 5:13.
I like the idea of